So today I'm with Janine Passaretti-Malloy. Hi, Janine. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. So this is, I first heard of your story in January of 2022, where I woke up and I read this horrific story. And sadly, it involved your daughter. And immediately when I read what happened, I read about this evil man posting on Facebook that he was going to go out and he intended to use his vehicle as a weapon and to F it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, your daughter was murdered,
Right.
right?
It was
So this
100%.
this story really it touched me, it touched the community. For those of you who are listening or watching right now, this happened in Rhode Island. And it's a horrific story. But before we go into that, you have another story, and the tragedy that you've dealt with and the hardships in your life didn't just start the day that you found out Olivia had passed.
No,
Right?
no, it didn't. It didn't.
So, can you tell us about yourself and take us back, please?
Yeah. So I did I did write a book. For some reason I'm like getting choked up here. Um, I wrote a book that was actually a journal that I was using after I lost my husband of 20 years. So my husband, we were married. I was married at 22 years old. Um, and we were married for 20 years. We had 3 children together, and you know, perfect little family. Nothing's perfect, obviously, but nice little family. We had, you know, we always spent time together. Like the kids were the most important thing. We did softball, travel, everything. And something just changed, and it changed abruptly with and all of this is in a book, so I don't mind talking about it because I've already talked about it extensively and put it out there, and it wasn't easy to put it out there, believe me. What happened was very difficult, and my husband was 46 years old, healthy, never any issues, always happy. He was happier than me. He's
Yeah,
just kind of like, don't sweat the small stuff, just if we can get, if money can fix it, we can get through it. That was kind of the, it's like whatever, it's not a big problem because there's so many other
right,
things in life that are problems that are difficult
right.
and you can't fix. And yeah, I came to know those. Something shifted in the way his mental state was, and he never had any kind of depression issues that needed, you know, um, to control. It was never anything like that. We all have issues. We all have depressed times in life,
Course.
but this was something that was way out of character, way different, and it was very intense. So it wasn't like going into some kind of a depressive episode. It was more of a who are you kind of a thing. That's how abrupt it was. That's how off, the personality. It was very different. And I started to see those things. And just because this is a very long story, to make that, part of it shorter, not that it means, this is a very important story, because it's my life, and
Yeah.
it's the life of my kids and everything. But it's he left one morning, he was going through a lot of different things that didn't make sense. I finally said to him, we're gonna go to the doctor today. Something is wrong, something is off. And this was like a 10-day thing. And that's what I talk about. Maybe there were little bits of breakthroughs, like in 6 months, like I look back and I go, that was a little bit like a little tinge of something happening,
Okay.
but it just went boom, like something exploded in 10 days. And it was like, that was it. And I said, we're going to go to the doctor. What happened was I fell asleep. I fell back to sleep, which I was, you know, to this day, I'm like, okay, was that meant to be? I fell back to sleep, and then I got woken up by the door shutting. Like I could hear the door, the front door.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, let me find out what the heck that was. So I texted him, and I'm like, where are you going? And I hear the phone go off. So he never took his phone out. So I go
Got
into
it.
the kitchen, and there's the phone, and there's his wallet, and I'm like, what is happening? So I look out the window quickly and I could see the car and the lights on in the car. So I grab my shoes, and as I, once I get outside, he was gone. And I'm like, okay, there's no phone, I don't know what do I do? And now I'm
Right.
here going, what's happening to my, like, what do I do? You're in a
Yeah.
position of, I have no idea what's happening right now. Oh my God, what? So I see a note, left me a note, and it just was it was very short, very scripted, but it was just like dark, like the handwriting was different. And it was just, I love you with all I've got. I love you all with all I've got. I'm just not right. God will save me now. And that was the note that I was looking at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So I'm like, oh my God, now what do I do? What do I do? So I called my sister, called my dad. I was just like, my mom is away at this point, and she's my go-to of, well, everything. And she's away at the time.
Yeah.
So, all of this is happening. Where could he be? Where could he be? And I have a friend that's on the on a police force. And I called him, he was a childhood friend, and told him what was going on. After my sister came over, she's like, you got to take the kids to school because they have no idea what's happening. Victoria and Olivia were still home. Olivia was
Mhm.
11,
Okay.
and, and then Victoria was just 16, but, the kids needed a ride. Jackie's at college first year in Simmons in Boston, just
Right.
started. And then we started looking for him. We were like, I don't know what's going on, but then everything started boom, quick, quick, quick. All this stuff is happening. Police, who's looking for him, where, because I probably, skipped over the main part of this was I went into our our bedroom, and the drawer was a little bit open. So
Yeah.
I go to the drawer, and there's the box that we had a gun for protection, and the gun's gone.
Oh,
So that's when that is when I called everybody, because I was
oh,
like,
yeah.
oh God, oh, I don't know oh my
Yeah.
God, he's gonna, hurt himself.
It's
Like
serious.
what's,
Yeah.
you and the worst fears came true. Um, and I don't know how much you want me to get into this, because I can, really talk about when we found him. And yeah, so we went to
Sure.
drive around, my dad and I, like, where could he be? And we named a few different places. And then for some reason, I got this vision in my head of cemetery, the cemetery where his parents were buried. And he wasn't one to go to the cemetery all the time, because he, thought, like, I actually do think the same way, is that they're always here and
Yeah.
they're always with us. So, but something said he's there, and I could not remember what the plot was, where the graves were. I couldn't remember exactly. So I had my dad start driving around, and as we're driving, I get a call from my police officer friend, who said, come back to the house, because there's detectives here, they want to talk or whatever. So we're in the cemetery parking lot, or like driving through, we take a right instead of the left. If we took the left, he was right there. So
Oh,
I was immediately stopped from this
sitting in
phone
his
call.
car.
Yes,
His car's parked. Okay.
yes. And we would have seen him if we took that left.
Oh,
It was exactly at the time
that
that
close. Yeah.
unbelievable. So we go back, and then they ended up finding him, and they came in, the police, they said, my friend looked at me and he said, they found him. And I had a chill down my spine. And I just remember my sister was there, my mom's friend was there, and they were like crying, but they were like, oh, thank God. And I got a chill, and I said, this is not thank God. This is something going on. This is not
Yeah.
good. And I looked at him and I go, that's not, he goes, he just gave me a look like, I go, well, where is he? They're communicating with him right now. Communicating. So that meant, what that ended up meaning was that there was all police officers there. They saw him, that he had a gun, and that he kept putting it up to his head, and they were watching this happening. He did not want to get out of the car. He just wasn't speaking. He was just, they're just trying to talk to him. So this went on for a while. And then I get all of the police coming in, and they said, we're so sorry, he shot himself. So I'm like, and still in my mind, I'm like, there's still, I had some glimmer of hope, like, okay, well, they're on their way to the hospital and he'll be okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case, because it was just like a movie playing out. My sister and I get in the detective's car. We ended up going to the hospital, and when we walked in, it was like, I just see these doctors come up to me. We were in this little room, and the doctors come up to me just like in a movie, and they looked at me and said, "We're sorry your husband didn't make it." And I'm like, what just happened to my life? Like, I was okay yesterday. Like, what, I wasn't okay
Right.
because I knew something was going on, but my life was intact.
Sure.
My biggest heartache and the biggest worry that I had at that moment was telling my kids, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Now, so that was, and I call that the chapter 2 in my book. And I always tell people this is really a hard chapter to go through, because it details all of this and what transpired. And I'm going to skip over the part of, because my kids are the most important things in my life, um and it's okay. I just, like, when I see them in pain, or if I see them hurting, that's what kills me.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's what I remember the most. How each of them, when they found out, I had to get my daughter back from Boston, and she
Yeah.
didn't know why. And I said, just come, just trust me. And we all went to my mother's house, and she wasn't there. Like I said, she was trying to get home.
Yeah.
Um, and she and everybody was there. I have a very big family, 9. My mother comes from 9 siblings and cousins, and everyone was there. And when she ever walked in the door, and I just, after that, I just went blank, and I just hear the cries and the screaming, and and that was the first nightmare that came through. um so it was like, I became a widow at 41 years old, and my kids had no father. At Jackie wasn't even 18 yet. She was 17. Victoria was just turned 16 in the summer, and Olivia just turned 11. So I was trying to get, it was just a very difficult road, to say the least. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I became a parent for the first time, I asked for advice and someone said to me, the hardest thing about being a parent is you can't protect your child from pain.
oh, it's so hard. It is. It's so
It-
hard.
it- Yeah.
You take it
We,
because you would take it.
that's right. We would take it. We
You
would
would
take
take it
it.
for them
Yes.
any
Everyone take
minute.
it for them.
No, you would think, you wouldn't even think twice. You would just be like, give it to me. Um, and that was the hard thing to do for those years of, watching them in different times fall. Each one of us would crumble, like, at different times. And it was
Right.
really difficult.
And then
Um,
picking each other back up, I assume. So you're like, you're crumbling and then one of you is there to pick that person up. Then that person crumbles, the next person picks that, right?
yes.
That
Yep.
sort of like,
Yes. You didn't
can I
know.
ask you for people that are listening to this and watching, and they're concerned about a loved one, and they're concerned about loved one's mental health. Could you just name maybe just one behavior change that you witnessed looking back that you could point out that was a radical shift and like, wow, okay, this
Yeah.
is so unlike him.
Oh God, yeah. That's why I said it was just um very intense. It was where, things that his normal personality was not to worry about, the little things. So there was something
Yeah,
that he was fixated on, and it was just like he would fixate on things that weren't um very significant to fixate on, in
yeah,
my opinion. And in our life, how it was for over 20 years, like, we wouldn't
yeah,
fixate on certain things like that. And
yeah.
it was just obsessive. It was an obsessive little thing. It was over and over. And I kept, trying to talk to him. And he's like, I just don't, he isolated himself from anybody else but me.
Big one.
Did
Okay.
not want to talk to anybody, wouldn't talk to his friends, wouldn't talk to anyone, didn't want to see anybody, didn't want to talk to anybody. Actually, at one point, he called me at work and said, come downstairs. Never would he have done that, ever. He wanted to talk to me, and like we got in the car and we were talking, and he was actually up for a promotion, which
Okay.
as I'm sitting in the car, the person called and told him that he got this promotion, but he had been out of work on he went out for his knee. He had a knee issue and he was kind of holding on to that. Like he goes, I don't know if I want to go back to work. It was just a very odd behavior for him. He
Okay.
wasn't
Yeah.
like that. So, and then there was a point where I looked at him and I was like, he said to me, why are you being so nice to me? And I looked at his eyes and his eyes were not his eyes. So that was a chill. Um, it was a
Yeah.
chilling. So
It's a mysterious comment to make too. Not really. Yeah.
it was a very, it
You didn't
was what?
understand that. Yeah.
But I said, I need you to go to church. I told him to go to church. And we lived, at the time, we were in between houses. So we were looking for a house.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a church right in the neighborhood. So I said, go to the church. I need you just to go and feel like God in your life again and pull, try to get, it
Yeah.
was just something. And I know he went because I saw the prayer cards. He went and got prayer cards and he actually did go.
Yeah.
And that was the day before he,
Ah,
and I'm like, oh God. So yeah, there was,
a little window of hope.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just anything. And there was like a breakthrough that the night before also, because he was like, all of a sudden I saw him, a glimmer back that he was there again. Like I saw him and he's
Yeah.
like, he came back in and he's like, it was like somebody just opened the door. Here he is. Oh, okay. And then we're talking. He's like, yeah, I don't, he goes, things are going to be good. We got, the promotion and, this is going to happen and blah, blah, blah. We're going to look for a house and so everything was in a better place. And I was like,
Yeah.
thank God. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right, good. We're back. We're back.
Relief.
And then boom, next day. And that was, I couldn't believe it. I just was like, and now there's that, what, what do I do? My whole life has changed. I don't know who I am right now. I don't know who this
Right.
person, who am I
Like a
supposed to be
loss of
now?
identity.
Well, yeah. Oh God, I lost that for a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a really hard part. There was a lot of differences between the loss of Olivia and Michael for me. Um, and what my capabilities were and how I dealt with things. And my kids were always number one. That was one thing. I made sure like they were number one and I would do anything to make sure that they were okay. And I would go see Jackie at school because she went right back into school. That was her way to cope. And
Right.
and she did really well. But I would go to Boston twice, 3 times a week to go see her, drive up, just
Yeah.
because I didn't want her to be alone. And I don't know, I just whatever I could do, but it was hard,
Yeah.
really hard.
There was something you said to me as we were getting to know each other prior to talking today that really sent chills through me. So I'm going to repeat it because I can't get it out of my head. You said to me, losing him was the most challenging experience of your life. It's everything that was thrown at you, and losing Olivia was most painful.
Yeah,
So, two incredibly, yeah, something about that just gave
yeah.
me chills.
And that's what I do a lot of thinking about, how different the pain was intense of both.
Yeah.
Just incredible pain. But the pain I feel with Michael was so much pain for the loss, but so much pain of what are my children dealing with. So it
Yeah.
was like, and what do I do? How do I make them okay? How do I get us through this? So that
Yeah.
was the hard part. And then Olivia was just someone just destroyed me. Um, it was an unimaginable pain that I
Right.
can't even put into words. It was really like, as a parent, um, I believe as mothers, we can only imagine the worst fear of us is that losing our child. And we can
Oh,
only imagine that pain, but we can never actually feel it unless we go
yes.
through it.
Right.
it is just beyond words. And that's what I know that parents, the people that I've met now, since I lost my daughter, a lot of the mothers say the same thing. It's just an unimaginable pain that you just go, you feel yourself come apart. You feel like you are being pulled, like your limbs are just being pulled off, like you just lost everything. And I will always feel that way.
Yeah, like we talked about, right? It's something that you can't. So one is people listening and can think to themselves, they can imagine it in their thoughts, but
Hmm.
when you actually have it happen, it's living in the sensations in your actual body, like
Hmm.
in a cellular level in your body, like that pain is so deep. I
Oh,
think that's what right, that breaking apart feeling.
yeah.
And that's what people can never imagine unless they're living with that sensation in their body.
And I would never wish that on anyone, believe me.
So the name of your book, just to kind of transition, because I'm sure a lot of people are like, what happened, right, with Olivia?
Hmm.
So I want to, you referred to your book a couple times. Let's make sure people have the name of it. It's When the Last Bell Rang. Yeah, and it's available on Amazon. Very
It
easy to
is.
order. Takes a couple of seconds. Um, and I think it goes more deeper into the PTSD and the challenges and for people
Yes.
really find it inspiring that you went through this tragedy and how you were able to move through it. So I think, buy the
Well,
book, right?
that's the biggest part of it, was to say, there's all of those pieces, but
Yeah,
how did we come out on the other side of it? And
right.
so that is what I felt we were doing as when you read the book, you'll see like us going through these things and the everyday stuff. It's not just like, all right, loss and grief and all this grief, and then have fun, you're on your own, figure it out. I
Yeah.
just put it all in there to say, like, yeah, we all experience this, like levels of loss and hurt and grief and things. And how did we get through it one day at a time? That's it.
But that's what made your story so unique to me in a way, because you're moving through this trauma and you're starting to see the light through it, and then bam, you get slammed with round two. So can you talk about that, please, and what happened?
Yeah. Um, it's very it's just surreal, like some of the things that happen, and you just go, wow, this is like a script. It's like a script, like someone wrote this, like, and that's another thing. But it's, as far as like your life is being planned out, or it's already been written. That's kind of what I'm going to. It's like, oh my God. But when the night that I lost my beautiful girl, it was New Year's Eve, and never go out really on New Year's Eve. It's just been one of those, like, I hate driving anyway. I don't want my kids driving. I hate it. I'm like, stay off, when it's late, you never know, it's the other people. And I always said that. But my daughter, my oldest daughter, Jackie, she's married now. She has her own home, and it's literally 10 minutes from my house now.
Okay.
So she was gonna go. She didn't want to go at first. She's like, I'm gonna stay home. And I was like, oh, I was gonna order food, but whatever. I said, Jackie's ordering some food and they're gonna play games and stuff. If you want to go over there for a little while. I didn't want her to feel it's like she had plans and she wasn't able to do those plans. So she kind of felt bad. So she's like, I'll stay home. And I felt bad. So I'm trying to say, well, go for a little while and then come back. So she ends up going. And those are things in my head that, is my guilt of, I should never let her
Yeah.
go. I should, the would have, should have, could have, and the things
Yeah.
that I will hold on to forever. But she looked so happy for a minute. Like there was that, she came into herself. I saw it all happening. Like she became like who she was gonna be meant to be. She came out as gay. She came out to me
Yeah.
a couple of years before that. And when she did, it was like the magic happened for her. It was like, I
Yeah.
can be who I want to. I'm gonna be, this is me. And you could see that
Yeah.
happy and the joy and the contentment in her. And I was so
Yeah.
happy about it. I said, Olivia, you look so happy. I'm so glad to, like, I said, we're gonna get through this. I said, this is gonna be our year. I said these words. My husband was sitting on the couch. And I said, this is gonna be a great year. And she's like at the door and she goes, oh, I hope so. I just don't want to like ask God for too much. So she's like, I don't want to ask God for too much,
Yeah.
but I hope this is going to be a good year. I said, come back and give me another hug. She always gave me hugs, always said, I love you. So I made her come back and give me a huge hug, and I'm hugging her so much. I go, I love you so much. And like, that's all I always did. And then she walked out the door, and that was the last time I would see her. Uh, we did FaceTime at midnight, and I said, I wanted her to stay there, and she wanted to come home, and I'm like, she goes, I'll see you in 10 minutes. Like, I'll be home soon. And my other daughter, Victoria, they were all there together, but they had different cars. And so she I thought I heard the garage, not the garage, the front door, and I heard the cars come in. I thought both of them came in. And so I just heard that and fell back to sleep. Little did I know that they weren't both home. It was just Victoria, who saw Olivia wasn't there, and she left before her to come home. And she went calling and calling, and all of her friends were calling her at this point, calling Olivia's phone, and she's not answering, and that's not her.
Yeah.
I mean, she may not answer her phone on the first pickup, but she's, if someone's going to continuously call her, she's going to answer it. She didn't answer anyone. So Victoria went back out, and she saw on the opposite side of the highway that there was a lot of commotion with fire trucks and ambulance and all of that stuff. So she got a sinking feeling, and she did a turn. So she got off the highway, got back on the highway, and she went over. There was state police, and she said, I think that might be my sister. She couldn't even see the car because it was off the road, which
Yeah.
she actually, she could see the car, but she couldn't see what car it was because it was so mangled, I should say. And it was upside down. And so she said, they said, wait there. And she waited there, and they came back with a bunch of other officers, and they said, we're so sorry. Your sister didn't make it. So it's now here's my daughter, who they're like this, all three of them,
Alone.
but
Yeah.
they were inseparable. And she now had to be she crumbled, and she now had to be the strong one and tell everybody and come home and tell her mother that her baby is dead. So that's what
Oh,
I woke up to. Oh, someone shaking, my daughter shaking me. And I'm like, oh my God, what's the matter? What's the matter? And she's like, you have to get up, mommy. You got to get up, mommy. Mommy, you got to get up. I kept hearing it. And I was like, that's what I said. What's wrong? And those words, and I didn't know that they were all state troopers and everybody on my lawn, and people like they were in the house, the paramedics and stuff, because she knew it was going to happen. And she said, Olivia's dead. And I wanted to die right there. I asked to kill me. Please, someone kill me. I just want to die right now. So they took me in the ambulance, and I couldn't stop screaming from this pain of like, it felt like in that split second of a final, like, it's like when you hear bad news, really bad news, but there's that glimmer of hope. You have a glimmer of hope that there's something that's gonna make it better. There was none of that. This was like the final gun, like the shot that just leveled me, and I couldn't make it stop. It was like someone was ripping me apart from the inside. And when I couldn't stop screaming. But I do remember just getting to I don't even remember the ride. I don't remember any of that. I just remember being in the hospital, and I just remember seeing my daughter Jackie, she's a nurse, and my husband, and I just remember seeing like the nurses and things. But I just all of a sudden, I know I heard my daughter say, you need to give her something. She's gonna have like a heart attack. Like she's gonna have a heart attack. So I just remember them giving me something, and that was like being catatonic and screaming on the inside, but not showing anything on the outside. I couldn't get out of my skin. I was like I couldn't move. I felt like I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. I couldn't do anything. And I am like ripping apart from the inside. It was the most absolutely horrific thing ever, ever. It really was. It was,
Like a prisoner in your own body.
yes, like you could not, you're inside and you know everything that's happening. You're screaming, but
That's
nothing's
it.
coming out. It was the worst thing I could ever think of because, and I know it was necessary. I feel like it had to happen because it's like, all right, I don't, for them to watch me like that, I guess, uh, um, or think that I'm gonna just drop dead right there. Uh, but it just was the beginning of of a lot, a lot of pain, um, unimaginable pain to go through, and it was very, very different because then I just remember wanting to not be here anymore. But then I remember hearing my kids say, we're going to lose mom too now. And
Yeah.
now there's only going to be two of us left. And those words will never leave my mind because I said, I cannot inflict pain on my kids. Those are the, that's the number one thing that I talked about is not wanting to, and we talked about it. You don't want to see your kids in pain. So why would you be the one to put them there? So
Sure.
that's
Right. Yeah.
so, but it's hard to, it's not like you're doing it on purpose, but I have to always remember the fact of I am not going to put the pain on my kids that they've already been through. So
How can I grieve and
I'll take
how
it.
can I grieve through this without also causing more trauma to them in my grieving process?
Right. Because just like we said, we would take the pain for our kids. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to just take on that. I mean, they go through their own pain, but it's like, I'm not going to give you additional pain. I'll, this is mine. Everybody has their own, like,
Yeah.
has their journey to go through. And I'm going to try to keep going with this. And
Can you
my,
talk about and before we get into who did this to her and all the, because that's a whole nother story that is just mind blowing. Can you talk about in the days after, like, how did you cope? Your behavior changes. You know, what did your day look like from the moment you woke up to the when you went to bed? What were that first days and weeks like?
oh God, a blur. Um, it's not even days. It's like that first year, even two. We're on 3 years now, but that was like a very big blur to me. I just remember the news coming and just all these different things happening and it shook the community. My small, I live in a small community and everybody was devastated. She was a junior in high school. And she, had a lot of friends and people loved her. She was just the most amazing, not because she was mine, just the sweetest and, funniest and craziest kid. And but I just remember the vigil. They had a vigil at the high school, candlelight
Yeah.
vigil, and hundreds of people showed.
Wow.
Hundreds. It was freezing, but everybody came there with candles and we just had this, they were talking and it was because it hit so many kids because she's 17 years old. So now
Yeah.
all of these kids in school, they had counselors the next day that it's like they would just come back from Christmas break
Yeah.
and it hit everybody. And I'm just watching all of this happening, unfolding. And I felt like I was in an out of body, like looking at this stuff happening. And I remember it was pretty much right after I felt like, and I never did this before, I was doing like social media live.
Yeah.
I went on and I talked about her and I look back at that first live that I did and I just looked like a weak, such a weak, fragile person that I I just was like, how am I gonna do this? And I just talked
Yeah.
about everything about her and but my husband Dennis, he went to the arraignment for this monster and I didn't even know. I don't remember any of that because I didn't go. I think I was actually, I said I was living at my mom's. I stayed there because we all kind of huddled together there. I wanted to be near, I guess my mom and have people there. So
Yeah.
everybody kind of was like that was the hub. So everybody came to my mom's house who lives a mile up the road from me.
Yeah.
And it was just trying to figure, like, I don't remember specifics. I just remember a lot of people, um, family, friends, just making sure like we were okay. And but that arraignment my husband went to, he said he just came in and he shuffled in, had a mask on, he had like pretending he was limping. He ran 8 miles after he killed her.
Right.
He never had anything wrong with him.
Yeah.
And then my husband, I think he said something after he was leaving, like, you killed our daughter, you know? And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, like, the people that were there for him, not very, started yelling at him, throwing up gang signs and all these kinds of things, because this is the
Wow.
kind of crowd we hang around with.
Those,
So
yeah, those are the
people,
kind of people. Yeah.
yeah. And that just began the road of this, where it came to,
Right.
this whole road of torture, basically torture.
For sure. When you say, when you watched yourself and you were like watching yourself as a frail,
Yeah.
vulnerable woman, would you say for people also, I think it would be beneficial for them to really understand what is normal. And everybody has their own way of grieving, but and everybody has a different way of coping. However, there are some pretty normal things like depletion of energy. Did you notice that you were just completely depleted of energy?
Hmm.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
a
very.
freeze, almost like a shutdown state of
Oh yeah.
the trauma kind
Yeah.
of, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Shuts you down. I still feel a lot of this. Like, I don't want to I couldn't be out late anymore. Like, I couldn't go out at I didn't like to be out at night. I
Okay.
still don't. I start getting like an anxiety feeling of being out for some reason. I don't want to be out late. I want to be in my own environment. I want to be home. I just want to be home. Um,
So you
just
feel
kind of
safe. You feel
where
more safe. Yeah.
yeah, it's
So
just
the
like a comfort.
danger,
Yeah.
right? When the darkness starts to come in and
Yes.
you're out and you don't know who is out, what they've been doing, have they been drinking, what is their
Yeah.
mindset. So it feels safe for you. It's more in your control to be at home.
Yeah, and I don't even believe that it's me that I'm trying to protect. I
Uh,
don't understand, if it's like, because I'm not, it's hard to explain. I'm trying to. I don't think it's me that I'm trying to protect by not going out and not doing, and I think it's, trying to protect my family. I don't know. I think I just feel like, I don't know what it is. I feel like I'm being pulled to do some more things. So I need to be here. Before I didn't necessarily want to be here, but I feel like I'm
mm,
pulled to do things or tell people what's going on. And I don't know. It's hard to put into words, but I know it's not basically saying I need to protect me. Like, it's not,
yeah,
if it's because I never really cared more about me. I cared more about my kids and my family than I
there's something
cared about
pulling you to
myself.
the greater, we call it the greater good. There's a
A greater
greater,
good. If
greater good, this
it's if
greater.
that makes any sense.
Yes.
I just, I because I don't know why, like, I shake at, like, if I go on the road at night and I'm like, oh my God, I can, it's weird. But I did it the other day actually, and it's 3 years later, so it's not like it just ends.
Yeah.
I was out and I was like, wow, I'm actually out longer than I have been ever, I think, in a while, like, just by
Right.
myself, like, just, I
Sure.
went with my friend, and we just, I drove home and I was like, wow, I ventured out. I kind of went to see my kids, like, because they're
Yeah.
not living with me anymore.
Sure.
They're adults. So I went to see both of them, and I'm just like, oh, I feel like there's a blink of a person coming back. Like, there's that little bit of me
Okay.
I'm seeing more
Yeah.
now coming through, where I did shut down for a long time.
In
I did.
that shutdown, did you notice that like you weren't cooking for yourself as much, or like did you? I interviewed with someone once who said they couldn't even make meals for themselves in the first few days and weeks. Did you?
Oh my gosh, we had the most outpouring of people.
Yeah.
I had food on my for months, I think. It was just, they
Yeah.
kept bringing, food and
Mhm.
everything to my family and sending us things. And it was just absolutely incredible. It was amazing what this you know, what this world can be, you know, the
Yeah.
kindness of people, kindness of friends, kindness of strangers. It was pretty incredible. But yeah, I did definitely shut down.
Okay.
I did.
Yeah.
You know, but then I got back into cooking because I really do like cooking. And I
Yeah.
felt like that was an outlet,
That's why I asked. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
It
just
became an
like,
outlet, a way to,
yeah, like, all
yeah.
right, I'm gonna make this today just because it zones me out. You get in a zone and you're like, all right, I'm doing this, paying
Yeah. Right.
attention to other things, you know.
Sure. Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how I did my jewelry. That's another thing, but that's where I was for 3 years. I put everything into creating healing jewelry.
Yeah. Right. So you took the grief and you were starting to, and that's part of the grief work is you've got all this energy because we're grief. If you think about grief, it's an energy. It's actually, and you can transform it. So you can
Yep.
take that grief energy and you started transforming that into
Yeah.
things for good, creativity, jewelry, right? And then I know
Yeah.
we'll get to it, but
Yeah.
Reiki and like transforming all of that in a way that you can do good in the world and help people and make the world a more beautiful place.
Yeah. Because there's a
Yeah.
purpose, right?
There's a purpose in it. That's right.
And that's why Olivia, when she passed, she had on a bracelet, and this is like gives people chills. So I'm always getting chills from these things. She had on a
Yeah.
bracelet that said, "I'm here for a reason." This was a probably have it in here somewhere, but it's just one of those like bands, you know, the rubber bands.
Sure.
She went to an assembly at school that really hit a chord for her. Uh,
Yeah.
and she said to me, this happened a week before she was killed. She
Okay.
said to me this, or 2 weeks, um, Mom, I feel like you need to tell our story. This is what she said to me. And she was in the bathroom giving my dog a bath. Like, so we have our little dog, Sunny.
Yeah.
She loved him. And I said, yeah, well, I wrote the book. I said, you would be amazing, because she was telling me about a parent that I guess lost a child through something.
Oh, you're
Uh,
giving me chills.
it's unbelievable. It is absolutely unbelievable. And I
Oof.
swear, like, it's just, I can't even believe. I go back and I go, oh my God, like, that's incredible that it was like she was feeling things coming to her and needed to tell me. And she stopped. And I said, well, you're so good at speaking. She is like, she would talk to anybody. Adults loved to talk to her because she was like talking to an adult. She was just an old soul. But she
Yeah.
said to me, no, I feel like you can help a lot of people. I feel like you need to tell our story. You need to tell people, and you can help them how you got through it. This is what she said to me 2 weeks before she was.
It was a messenger.
Yes, and I was in the kitchen doing whatever, and the bathroom's there, and then I said, "Yeah, but you're so good at that." And then she said, "No." She was adamant, like she had to keep saying, "No, Mom, this is you."
Yeah.
So that's why, like, I didn't fixate on that. And then, but after she passed, I remembered all of that, and I'm saying, my God, it's like I'm here for a reason. Then she's gone, but she's telling me, tell our story, which
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
thinking I've already told our story because I've already written the book, not realizing she probably means this one, but didn't know what, couldn't connect that because, you know, you're on an unconscious level here. You're like, it's just
I know.
my faith, and my beliefs and things, they can continue to expand.
Yeah.
They really do. And I believe that 100% I'm being pulled to do things. I am.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. And I'm learning to hear that and follow through as much as I can.
Yeah. I hope people listening really hear that if they believe in something, the universe, God, whatever it is, they believe bigger than themselves.
Yep.
I hope your story strengthens their belief in
Yes.
something greater and bigger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's just, and it's one day at a time. I try to tell people, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't, sit here and go, oh, I'm gonna, have all these things happen. I'm like, I gotta get through today. Like,
Sure. Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Yeah. Be
Let me
present.
just figure out what I'm doing today and how am I gonna, and some days are really productive and I feel like I've accomplished things. And then there are some days that I don't want to do anything. I feel like I have no
Yeah.
strength, and that's okay. I'm
That is
like,
okay.
I'm
Yeah.
learning that it's okay to do that and to
Yeah.
take a step back, but get back up
Right.
because, and I hear her. come on, mom. She used to say, Mom, hey, Mom.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I feel like something's motivating me to say is something more. And I'm very strong on the feeling of there is more, because I can't make her death just be it. Like
Yeah.
she was here for a reason. That wasn't her bracelet, but she was. We are all here for a reason. So it's like I can't have her death just be the end, and then nobody, remembers her, or nobody understands what's, everybody has a life. Everybody has a life to live. Everybody has a purpose. And that's what I feel is a big part of the second half of, or fourth part of my life, or whatever it is.
Right.
I feel that's part of it somehow.
That's important recovery work too, right? So as from a trauma perspective, when people have been traumatized, which, think of trauma as your nervous system is overwhelmed, right? So you can have a stress response, fight or flight, or you can go more primitive into a freeze or a shutdown response. And taking your trauma and creating meaning out of it is the best way to recover. I know you'll never be fully recovered, I understand that, but I'm saying is to be functioning again in the
Right.
world, that is the path for people that are listening.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
That they can find you inspiring, hopefully.
I hope so. It's just, I don't know. I just feel, being like, I say that often. I just feel
Yeah.
a pull to do something. And it's like, and when I feel it stronger and stronger and stronger, I'm like, you can't ignore it. It's like, there's
Yeah.
something that's saying, great, let's go. Come on, you're ready. Let's do it.
Well,
I'm starting to piece it together, you know.
what that speaks to, I usually tell people is when you say you're hearing it, if you live too much in the past, you can't hear the signal. But if you live too much in the future, excessive worrying and obsessing about what's going to happen tomorrow, you can't hear the signal.
Yep.
You got to try to live somewhere in that present moment so you can tap into that internal compass and really hear that signal so you can hear that call of the universe to kind of help guide you and what is the right course of action and
Yeah,
what to do next. But you got to
definitely.
be living in today in order
Yep.
to hear it.
100%.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not always
No.
easy at all. This is not an easy, like, all right, this is what you do today.
Yeah.
And then you'll
No.
be good. And
Right.
then all these things, oh, now I'm all better. No, but it's like,
No.
it's the eternal struggle. And so it's like, what, you got, and there's one thing, if I can interrupt you, or did you want to ask me something? Because I
No.
wanted
No.
to
Please
talk
go.
about,
Go.
I felt like I read something, and I talked about this the other day when I was doing a live on my Facebook, and I said, um, it's like we know how to, we're used to learning how to live with hurt and pain and trauma and all that stuff in our life. What now
Yeah.
I am trying to really work through is to try to feel okay about finding happiness.
Mm.
I feel anytime there's a bit of happiness, and it's like, and of course you feel it, but I'm always like, here's my pain right here. It's never leaving me. It hurts. It'll never stop. I think of her 24/7, my
Yeah.
daughter, 24/7. But it's like, I have to now find a way to be happy, that it's okay to have joy. But it's I have to learn that it is okay. And that's what I think a lot of people are like, you have so much grief and so many things that have happened. How can you be happy? How is that okay? So
Yeah.
it's an internal struggle of, it's okay to find joy in things. I'm not forgetting her if she wants me to find that. And I feel it, we got
Yeah.
things to do, right? That's what she told me.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got stuff to do here.
Well, I think what you're speaking to is guilt, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
So yeah, feeling
Um,
guilty, feeling happiness and joy for you has been a battle of
yeah,
guilt. Yeah.
yeah,
And what you're doing is really warrior work because and I'm not, a lot of people cope differently as well, but and I'm certainly not shaming anyone out there who copes with this strategy through numbing, through people numb in all different kinds of ways, through drugs or alcohol or whatever they're going to numb. But
Mm-hmm.
I think your work is, I try to tell people when I do work with people who have trauma that if they choose to numb themselves in that ways, again, they have to go through their own journey, but they're not going to be able to hear that signal. Their recovery is going to take longer, which is why I think your work is what I call the warrior work, is that you're in order for you couldn't numb it. You couldn't
Oh,
take, there's nothing that you could take to numb the pain. You literally had to step into the pain and be present and become one with the pain in order for you to transform it.
I
Does that
agree
make
with you.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And my last life, my last, when we lost, the first time, it was a different coping mechanism that I used.
Yeah.
And you'll read that, you can read that in the book. But it's like a very different, it looked very different than it does now. There's
Yeah.
it's like um two different people. And but there was a reason for that too.
That's
I,
right.
you know,
Yep.
I do believe that I had to have a reason to, I was not, it's not like I woke up from my grief and had all these things happen to me and I just perfectly put all these things together and
Sure.
I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now I'm gonna help the world. No,
Right.
that is completely not. But I was like, I gotta find a purpose.
That's
And
right.
I'm learning, like, I don't know. It's like this stage is different than my last one because the last one, the coping didn't work. And I knew that and I found that,
Yeah.
found that the way that I was trying to cope, it was like, all right, everybody good? Everybody's good. All right, everybody's happy now today.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I would
Right.
just
Right.
lock myself in a room and just be like, all right, now I'm gonna have a bottle of wine or whatever,
Correct.
and
Yeah.
that was my coping. And that did not work in any way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you for speaking to that. Yeah, that's the message I wanted people, which again, like, I shared with you too. I had my own personal trauma that
yep,
happened 10 years ago, and I used alcohol to cope
yep,
with it. And it got to the point that I was like, it's not working.
no,
So I have no
no,
choice at some point. I'm like, I have to literally like step into the pain, or it's gonna take over my life. I had to step into
yeah,
the pain and sober up to be able to like actually work my way through it. So I can
right,
relate to that. And that's, I hope I inspire people that are going through this as well, that, you know, the most hardest thing to do, but it's the bravest path of the warrior, is to step into the pain, as hard as that can be. And obviously you
right,
can work with a therapist, and
yeah,
I always
oh god,
encourage
yeah,
people to seek professional mental health therapy, help people work through that as well. They don't have to do it alone.
yeah, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And
So
that's where I feel like my therapy has been my Reiki.
yes, yeah.
It's
Um,
just
do you want
amazing.
to talk about, I want to also get to, there's a criminal aspect of this, if you want to talk about it, that I
Sure.
think people might be interested to learn as well, if you want to touch upon it. Like, people are probably wondering too, like, more to the story. Can you touch upon the criminal aspect?
Yeah,
Please?
absolutely.
Yeah,
Because that's what we've been living for 3 years. Just you know, a month or two ago, we actually had this. It's a huge. It's been a chaos and torment for getting this person, getting justice for my daughter, right?
sure.
And it was a two-person thing because it was this monster who has a criminal record for since he was a kid. He was in and out of jail, always in and out of the courts. Actually, over 200 times he had seen the inside of a courtroom. This was, you know, I found all this information out, and the different judges that, whether just let him go, let him go, let him go, let him go. I mean, you're talking, he has an arm's length of a record, and just his way of not caring about anybody else but himself showed that night. And him killing my daughter at doing 100 miles an hour on the highway, and she was doing 64. They did the whole reenactment of everything. He was doing 100 miles. She was doing 64, just taking her time, and she was an excellent driver. She was very cautious. She was just, my God, and you can ask anybody, it's not just because I'm her mother. He must have hit her like it was like a train hitting her, and they said she died on impact because of, she was hit and then flipped over, hit the tree, and it was and that's what I struggled with. Please tell me she wasn't in pain. Please tell me she wasn't hanging on. Please, like, God,
Yeah.
it was constant. And come to find out that she the blunt force trauma, she died from that.
Yeah.
And I didn't see her. I wanted to go to see her, and they said no. Not that they said no, but they said, you'll never get that out of your head. You don't want that. She wasn't there. That wasn't her. So so that was that. But then trying to get this person who should have been in jail, prison. He was on he was out on parole.
Okay.
And from another crime he committed, he should have been doing 8 years for that crime. But he's, the way that the system seems to work is that, you know, let him out again, let him out again, let him out again. So he was out
Right.
and killed my daughter. And the only way to stop him on this from killing other people and hurting other people was him now killing my daughter and now going to jail, going to prison where he should have been already.
Yeah.
And they gave him, because they were supposed to charge him with a habitual offender charge, which adds up to 25 years because
Sure.
all he did. Long story short here, but just to understand how horrible to live with this. He got
Yeah.
17 years for killing my daughter. He didn't get 17 years. He actually got 8 years for killing Olivia, and he got the rest for the habitual offender crime. So 8 years for killing my child. So does that make any sense? So there's where
No, it doesn't.
no, it doesn't. But it's like, and it took 3 years for them to have this, he went forego a trial. I can't even speak anymore. Instead of going into trial, he pled, nolo contendere. So not guilty, not innocent, just that whole, yeah. Like
I'm shaking my head.
I'm still gonna be this person to say, I'm gonna make the decision. That's how an arrogance of this person. So I'm not gonna go through the trial. I'm gonna just, okay, fine, and give it plea deal. So my child was worth a plea deal, right? So the plea deal, like, I want to say to all of these people, like, in charge,
Mhm.
all, I don't care, all the judges and all these people, like, when it's not a case, it's not a number, she's not a
Yeah.
case. Her name was Olivia Rose,
Yeah.
and this person did not care and killed her. And it's 8 years, 8 years. Okay, keep letting these people go, and they see them in their courtroom, and it's like, at one point in life, you have to look and say, this is not a good person. This is not going to ever be a good person. He's shown it for his, forever. So
Yeah.
when are we going to change something? So that's where, I'm at also in this whole life here, thinking of.
I want people to hear just how much, like, I'm just reading this from
Yeah.
an online source. I mean, 2011, West Warwick Police charged him with fraudulent use of credit card and burglary. 2013, Cranston Police filed felony shoplifting charges. 2014, Providence Police picked him up and charged him with failure to register as a sex offender,
Yeah.
resulting in obstruction of judicial system charge. 2015, one of 3 arrested and charged by Providence Police with conspiracy, lunacy, vandalism, and receiving stolen goods, breaking in and entering. More to that story. 2017, possession of a stolen vehicle, tampering with vehicles, conspiracy. 2021, pulled over, driving with a suspended, revoked, canceled license, second offense. And then also pulled over again right before this incident, my understanding is. December 2021, 2 days before Christmas, is that right? And about a week before the crash, another pullover for speeding.
So that came up to us as well. But for some reason, they said that wasn't accurate. So I don't know, how was it there? And then all of a sudden it's not there, but it doesn't matter. Just, you know what?
Look at the rest.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So a month before, 2 months before, whatever it was, it's like, this person is not good. And I look at it
Yeah.
like good and evil came
Sure.
together that night on that road and
Yeah.
took the good. And I said, evil didn't take her away. Evil did take her away, but it didn't stop what she is about. And she would have actually looked at it now saying, and I can hear her because I don't know, I hear. And it's like, well, finally he's off the road. Like finally we got him away from hurting other people. But it's like, oh, and then he's eligible for parole in 4 years.
Oh,
How's that a slap in the face?
that's awful. Yeah.
How's that a
Yeah.
slap in the face?
Yeah.
Right?
That's a huge slap. Yeah.
For eligible for parole in 4 years. I wanted to say, now,
Awful.
if this was your child, is that justice for your
That is not
17-year-old
justice. No,
child?
that's
No, it isn't. It isn't. And we're not done. We're not done making noise. And, we made a lot of noise and they were hoping probably that some of the people were hoping that we would shut up. But we had you know, we had a rally at the Attorney General's office, which was
yeah.
on the news, and hundreds of people showed up for that. It was just incredible. Another freezing day that, but people are like, what is happening? What's happening in this system that this can continue? Someone can be a life, habitual offender, a lifetime criminal, and a murderer.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, 8 years, get out in 4. But he's still
Yeah.
doing 8 years for another crime. He's in prison. He he would have been out of. He would not have been a set in prison for my child until recently. He only has been in prison since he killed Olivia because he was on parole for another crime that he was doing 8 years for. That he's
Okay.
in. So he would have been
He,
walking for 3 years. He would have been out.
he would have been out. Got it.
In this system, the way it works, it's like, he wasn't tried yet, so he
Yes.
would have been out. But now he's in for, who knows? Who knows? You got to watch the judicial system. I call it the lack thereof, because it's a catch and release society that we live in, unfortunately. But
Yeah. So that's what you're trying to change is number one, any habitual offender actually receives prison time and is not out on the streets creating more havoc in our communities and our societies and putting more people at risk. And then the second part of it is if you do receive, if I'm right, if I'm understanding this right.
yeah,
And if you do receive a prison sentence, if someone is convicted of a crime and they receive a prison sentence, that they don't get eligible for parole in 4 years. It's outrageous.
it is outrageous, and that's
And
why we're trying to create Liv's law. But I look at it too. I'm like, we have to create new laws. Why don't we just follow the ones we have? We have
yeah,
laws in place.
yeah,
It's just you can say, all right, well, he could do up to 30 years or 50 years, and then they throw out all of these numbers to you, and then it comes down to the time, and they're like 8 years for Olivia,
yeah,
and then that habitual offender will give you what, 9, like, and eligible for parole in 4. That's what my child's life is worth. What?
yeah.
There's like, you could have given him a lot more than that. And if it was your child, you would have.
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, right, of course, right. Like you said, good and
oh,
evil.
11:11 on the clock. Did you see that? It
Oh,
just changed. I'm a
you're
big
always
number
looking at it.
nerd.
Yeah, nice, like a
And
message,
I don't even pay
11:11.
attention. Well, my ear was just ringing. Just
Yeah,
this ear was ringing, and I turned and it said 11:11. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So they're like, "Yep."
you're in tune. Yeah,
Like,
there,
come
you're
on.
getting setting the signal. Um, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
It's infuriating. It
yeah, it
just
is.
is so
I'm
infuriating, and
at
I
sometimes no loss for words of
no,
like,
and that's
good
why,
and
like,
evil.
I laugh sometimes because it's a coping, like, it's almost like
Yeah,
a release of something. It's not me being happy, it's me being like, are you kidding me? Like, that's my,
yeah,
like, this is ridiculous. Now this is like, how many others, and I have a million other people, not a million, but I do have a lot of people that contact me that have been through this system, that
yeah,
have had similar things happen, and they are no better off. They are just like, the they just let the criminals go. They let these
yeah.
criminals just pat him on the hand and go, okay.
something has to change. And I hope that you can make a difference, and I believe you will make a difference.
I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so. It's all for, it's like I said, she's pushing me forward, and it's about helping other people. And, if I have a voice and anyone wants to listen to it, and I'm gonna do what I can. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you want to talk about what you're doing now, and for people who live in Rhode Island or surrounding
Mhm.
states, the work that you're doing, or
Sure.
the Reiki?
Oh my gosh, that and then with the Reiki, that is one of the biggest positive things in my life. And I never, I've come from a very long line of very spiritual, intuitive, I'll just say that, people. Um, and I've always had a connection. I always feel like there's more than this life, and I've always
Yeah.
felt that. But I was a quick replay. It's like I was in a master's course for mental health counseling. So I have a degree in psych, and I kept feeling pulled to help people, but I didn't know which way. And I'm still
Yeah.
finding that, and I'm fine tuning it.
Sure.
And so now I'm in this class, and I happen to go to a Reiki session. Um, and I thought it was great. And the person was like, "You should do this," like telling me to do it. And I was like,
Yeah.
really? And like we start talking, and I'm like, I really, it wasn't like the instantaneous, like, okay, but it happened. And I said, yeah, that's not my thing for this course. I actually went home, and I got out of it. I just, dropped this class, and I said, there's more. There's something else. And I'm listening.
Yeah.
For the one time that I'm listening, like, all right, that first time, like, oh, all right, I'll do this. So I decided I'm going to open up my business, which was Enchanted Lotus, because I'm always thinking of lotuses and enlightenment, and trying to grow through the darkness and come out through the light. And this was in COVID. During COVID, I decided I want to have a business during COVID. But so it was more like jewelry, doing all these things. But that Reiki, I just started to do it, and it just was like, it's like, hey, now you're here. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
finally, I found it. But it was such a healing process. And I created this space that's so tranquil that I just go into it, and I just breathe. I can feel like
Yeah.
taking a breath. As I started to, do that, I found that, my belief is that I had to change my course at the time that I did,
Yeah.
before Olivia passed, a couple of years before, because I would have never been able to um, handle going to classes and doing all of those things that had to be on my what I could handle.
Yeah.
So
Makes sense.
now I'm really pushing more of the spirituality, the Reiki, and that work, uh, versus I was doing jewelry for like a long time, and I still am. I still do it, but I believe that that was my the 3 years that I was doing jewelry. After, this past 3 years when Olivia passed, all I would do is fixate. I would make patterns and jewelry, and do the healing stones and all, and I could sit there for 7 hours and not even realize it, not eat, not anything. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm like making all of these different patterns that are coming to me. That was a survival. I think that was my survival,
Yeah.
to focus on something completely, like, if I'm paying attention to patterns and colors, I can't be
Yeah.
listening to other things going on. So
Yeah.
now it's like somebody said, you're done now. That
Yeah.
part's like,
Right.
not that that's done, but it's like we need to shift a tad. So now let's really focus on this, your Reiki, and really show people how important it can be for them in healing. And it's been a game changer. Just for, me helping other people through Reiki healing and energy work and all of that. It's helping them helps me. And I tell them
Yeah.
that. And people never come to me by chance. There's always a reason. There's always some kind of a, like, hey, I did this the other day. It's like people come through my door, and I'm like, you came here for a reason, right? It's like,
Yeah. Right.
I feel like you know them, you feel like, oh, there you are. I know your soul,
Yeah.
but
It's the way trauma works, right? It's victim, survivor, thriver. So you're
uh,
moving into more now. You were surviving with the jewelry, and now you're going
yes,
to try more into, as you're moving more into that phase of thriving. trying to move through that guilt so you can reclaim some joy, helping people spiritually,
Yes.
helping to regulate their nervous system. I I think a lot of people don't understand how powerful Reiki is for
Yeah.
somatically. If you're traumatized and you have a dysregulated nervous system, traditional cognitive behavioral therapy is very important for distorted thinking off false beliefs, but you really have to work on a much deeper level, which is where Reiki can work on that deeper trauma level, where that trauma is stored in the body. So anyone listening to this, if you've been in traditional cognitive behavioral therapy and you haven't seen the results you want, I really recommend everybody reaches out to Janine so that you can start to work on that healing level on a more cellular level where that trauma is stored in the
Yeah,
body.
definitely. Definitely. Thank you. And I welcome anybody that wants to come in and just see. And I've had people that come in, a lot of people, they don't know what it's about and
Yeah,
they want to try it and they're like, wow, when they leave, it's just, you have to experience it to understand it. And it's just, I say it's like peeling the onion, like one layer at a time. You're not gonna like magically, come out of what you're going through, but
sure.
you can. And I've seen such a difference in so many of my clients that it's like we're working on this together. Like I'm with
Yeah,
you on this whole road. So
that's
that's what I
beautiful.
really, really like to do. So
I say my first Reiki session that I ever had when I was in my trauma, I went to one and I didn't know what to expect. And I was laying there and I didn't realize how much pain I had locked away inside my nervous system. And as I was in the Reiki session, I started to unravel. It was
mhm.
as if somebody opened a door that had been shut and I started crying. And like I'm in the session and the tears are just flowing out of me. And I knew my work with Reiki wasn't done after that one session, but it was an incredible start
It's
of like just
unbelievable.
releasing all
Hmm.
the stuff that I didn't know was in me. So,
Yeah, that's so normal, crying
right?
through Reiki. And they're like, I don't know why I'm crying. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, they know why you're crying. You need to cry, get it out. Like, we'll all cry. Let's cry.
How can
Yeah.
people find you if they want to book a session with you?
So actually, I have a website, and you can go right on the website. It's Enchanted Lotus, and then it's a dash JPM, Janine
Okay.
Passaretti-Malloy.com. But you can go on there and you can book your own session. Like you can look and see. I have convenient times, day and evening classes, sessions.
Yeah.
So you can just do that yourself, see what works for you, and
Okay.
yeah. So like Monday through Saturday, so you can find something that'll work.
Yeah. And I'll put that in the episode notes too online to make sure people can find you. Um, well, thank you for sharing your story. I want to give you the last word if there's anything last that you want to say.
Oh gosh. Yeah, this is a journey that we're on, and this life is not easy. And we kind of look at other people like, oh, how come they have it easier than, and but you don't ever know what someone's going through. You have no idea of their journey. It's very easy to hide behind a smile,
Yeah.
behind something, but it's like you're here for a purpose if you're here. And it's like
Yeah.
finding that purpose. What is it? But it's a daily thing. It's one day at a time. Let's make today good. Let's make it important. Let's make something happen. And that's what is driving me to keep going forward, is to just find that purpose and and
Yeah.
that and keeping her memory alive, and because she was just such an incredible person. And I know there's so many people that can relate um to the loss, but it's one day at a time. That's what I have to say.
Beautiful. Well, thank you.
So
Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your story and
thank you.
being so open about your journey. And I really hope that someone listening felt inspired today.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.